Life is full of twists, turns, and surprises that we never see coming. One evening, as I sat alone in a tiny hotel room, I couldn't help but reflect on the journey that led me here. My husband Logan had been away for a few months, working in another city, and those long, lonely nights were starting to take a toll on me. Sure, I missed him, but it wasn't just the absence. It was the distance, the neglect that really started to eat away at me. His lack of attention, his disinterest. It hurt more than I expected. I thought about how I ended up in this hotel room with Gary, my stepson, and I could never have predicted how it would turn out. It was supposed to be a simple trip to see Logan, but fate had other plans. Let me rewind a bit and start from the beginning. Trust me, this story is about to get a lot more interesting than you think. That morning, before I left the house, I caught a glimpse of myself in the mirror. Despite the tension I felt from Logan's absence, I still looked good. There was still that spark in my eyes. Even though I was missing Logan, it didn't mean I had lost everything that made me feel alive. But deep down, I knew something had changed. I needed more than just the looks or the spark. I needed connection. I needed something to fill that emptiness. And that's when I decided to ask Gary for help. Gary, my stepson, was in the kitchen finishing his breakfast. I could hear the sound of his cereal bowl clinking. "Gary," I called out, "you're about to start college, but you really need to get better at driving. Come on, take me to your dad." He turned around with that signature mischievous grin on his face. "All right, stepmom," he teased, "but only if you ask Dad to get me a better car for the summer." "Deal," I responded sharply, eager to just get this trip over with. But little did I know that ride wouldn't go as planned. We had been driving for a couple of hours, and I was getting lost in my phone, occasionally looking up to laugh at one of Gary's jokes. He was always the funny guy, cracking jokes that only he found hilarious. But then, suddenly, the car let out a weird hiss before completely dying. "What's going on?" I asked, trying to stay calm. "I think the car broke down," Gary muttered, pulling over to the side of the road. So there we were, stuck in the middle of nowhere. The phone signal was weak, and there wasn't a soul in sight to help us. 2 hours of calling mechanics and trying to figure out the problem, we finally realized we had no choice but to find the nearest motel for the night. When we arrived, I was already frustrated. The reception area looked so old, and the guy behind the desk seemed like he'd been working there forever. If Logan hears about this, he's going to flip, I thought. But strangely, in that moment, I didn't care. Something told me that tonight, everything was going to change. Before I go on, don't forget to subscribe to Life Tip Top and turn on notifications so you won't miss what's coming next. Trust me, this part of the story will leave you hooked. The room we got was a shock. Tiny, just one bed, a single nightstand, and a dim, flickering light hanging overhead. The ceiling felt low, and the AC barely worked. The window looked out at the parking lot. "Great," I muttered under my breath, feeling utterly disappointed. Gary, of course, found it amusing. "What did you expect? A 5-star hotel? Relax, it's just one night," he said with that cheeky grin of his. Normally, I would have rolled my eyes and gotten irritated by his laid-back attitude, but that night, something about him stirred something I couldn't explain. His carefree nature, his charm, it was all so magnetic. And I hated to admit it, but the idea of being stuck here with him, even in this cramped space, didn't seem all that bad. Feeling the heat of the room, I said, "This heat is unbearable. I think I need a shower before I pass out." Sure, Gary said, flopping onto the bed. "It's your kingdom, Carmen. Do whatever you need." I glanced at him for a second. His slim yet toned frame, his boyish features mixed with a certain charm that I couldn't ignore, but I quickly shook the thought away. He was Logan's son, my stepson. Stepping into the bathroom, I stared at my reflection in the mirror. I was 47, but I still looked good, still felt alive. I turned on the shower, hoping the water would wash away my tangled